Hey guys, Dave coming to you from the Hobo Dojo, and it's Friday morning, and it's a little cool here in Southern California, and I guess you probably noticed that we had the second and final debate last night. Should have been three debates, was only two, and boy, I wish they'd have done this on the first debate. The shut off mic thing really worked to Donald Trump's advantage because he was able to uh, control the impulse to interrupt, like he did so much in the first debate, and instead collect his thoughts. And that's really, really helpful. I had an experience with a Zoom meeting. Some of you know that I'm involved with this Braver Angels thing where we're trying to get together with people and promote discussion across the divide. So I was invited to this thing. Apparently, some people within Braver Angels have a thing for singer-songwriters and a thing for musicians and songwriting, and thought that maybe that could be part of getting people together. And as you probably know, folk musicians can't wait to tell people what they think in song. So I was invited to this thing. And it turns out that one of my very good friends, and in my view, one of the best songwriters in the United States, a woman named Olivia Brownlee. She's every time I have a live show in LA and I can possibly get her to come sing with me, I do. But she is amazing. She's an amazing musician and just a really good person. And she's one of the few people that knew that I was a conservative when she first met me here in Los Angeles. And she had just come from the East Coast, and I don't know her politics. She's never mentioned them, but she was always completely accepting of my politics, even though I was at the moment getting a lot of blowback from the general, singer-songwriter community in Los Angeles, who are almost all lefties. And there's this long history of sort of labor organizing and civil rights. So they like to write a lot of songs explaining how wonderful they are. And so it's kind of a self-congratulatory thing with folk musicians. So but she had invited me to this virtual song circle sponsored by Braver Angels. So I did. And I didn't sing anything because I was broadcasting from here, and I can't fit a guitar here. I can fit an electric, a skinny little electric like that one there I can fit, but I can't fit my big body acoustic. And right here's the table, and I'm in a motorhome and it's built in, and this is the only place I have that's kind of set up with a mic and things like that. So I just sat in, and it turned out there was about 9 folk musicians, and each one of them was singing sort of left-wing songs of about how we should get together, but all of them had the sort of tint of lecturing to conservatives, even while they were, promoting the supposedly promoting sort of unbiased talk about the divide itself. So I listened to everybody, and I kept my mic muted. And there were many times I felt like saying something, but I was muted. My mic was muted. So afterwards, after there was still a little time left, and I suggested, well, why don't we actually talk about what we came here to talk about? And I went ahead and talked about it from how I see it, and it started a really lively conversation. But every time I said something, I would mute myself. So everyone could see that my mic was now muted. You can see that in a Zoom call, and it let everybody know that I was holding my tongue. And I thought that's really handy. If somebody else was to mute me every time I was done, it would be even better, because it gave me a chance to, rather than jumping in every time something sort of triggered a response in me that I felt I had to make, instead of doing that, I thought it through and I listened, because my response was going to be informed by all the things that other people said. And I think I made a really good impression because I controlled myself. And I found, as I'm trying to learn how to do a podcast thing, I found that that's difficult for me to, because somebody will say something, and I want to jump in because I got an idea about that too, so I want to jump in. And it's like I need to have somebody there to, okay, Dave has said enough. Let's mute his ass for a little while, so I wouldn't, get carried away and talk too much. And I've had problems with that when I have people on and I try to do a podcast that I look back at the tape later and it's like 3/4 me. And I realized that, well, that's not me doing the job of that. So, I mean, it's one thing. I'm the only guy talking. I'm the only guy in the room right now. So, obviously I can talk all I want. But that you look at these things sometimes you go, geez, I don't know. Dave talks for 40 minutes. I don't think I'm quite up for that. So anyway, I was just thinking that was really, really, it really served Donald Trump. It because then a question would go to Biden and then there would be a specific topic. I thought the moderator was amazingly good. Of course she hit Trump with some tough questions. That's her job. But hang on, let me get a sip of product placement here. Yes, these cups are available. Blue Collar Logic, baby. I thought she was great. She was really great, and I thought Trump really rose to the occasion. I think he even complimented her on how what a great job she was doing. I know he did. I think this gave Trump the edge, along with the fact that basically he's done a really good job. He's been president for 4 years, and Joe Biden has just wanted to be president for a very long time. And a lot of the problems that Donald Trump has addressed took place, of course, while Joe Biden was vice president or sitting in Congress for all that time as a senator. So Donald Trump had the advantage of an incumbent president anyway, but the mic cut gave him the discipline. It forced the discipline on him to go ahead and use that advantage. And I think it used the advantage really, really well. I thought he was really sharp. To tell you the truth, I've been a little depressed lately about our chances. And, I mean, it's going to get, we have every reason to sort of fear the Democrats right now because they're on the warpath. And if they do get in, which I think they've got a good chance of getting in, it's gonna be a rugged time. My thought is that if Biden gets in, that they will spend the first couple of years really trying to repair the country after all of the damage that mostly blue states have done by shutting down their economies. I mean, the biggest economies other than Texas are California and New York, right? Or I think so. But anyway, certainly California. And there's been just an awful big blow to the economy because the blue states have shut down. Michigan as well. These are big economies. So I think they're going to spend a lot of time trying to repair that as part of their narrative that Donald Trump caused that. They're going to be trying to really repair that for a while, and then we'll see, what Joe looks like in 2 years, because you may have seen that video I did where I predicted, I think I called it Californicating America, where I predicted that Joe Biden would be in for 2 years and they'd cut him out, put Kamala in. It's got to be just past the 2-year mark. That allows her to spend 2 years and still run for 2 full terms. If he gets out before then and she has over 2 years in her inherited term, then that will count as a full term and she'll only be able to run for 1 more term. So she would be limited to being a 6-year president. And or she could be a 10-year president. And I think that that's what their plan is. I think their plan is to, they've kind of got the residual goodwill of Joe Biden as sort of lunchbox Joe, right? I'm doing a video right now. Well, let me not get off my point. I'll get to that in a second. But I think they're going to use his residual goodwill with the working people of America, that just the habitual Democrat voters who have not gone over to the Republicans yet, as so many of us have done. I think they're going to use him they're using him to come in because people go, oh, sure, he's talking Green New Deal, but this is Lunchbox Joe. He's a regular guy, and sort of the Trojan horse there is Kamala Harris, who would be more than happy. I mean, apparently her voting record in the Senate is second to none in terms of going full progressive all the time. So I think she's the Trojan horse, and they have every reason to wait till just past the 2-year mark to give her a lot of time to do damage to the United States. So I think for the first couple of years, we're not going to be in such bad shape if Joe gets in. But I haven't felt optimistic about keeping him out. And I've seen what I consider to be a lot of sort of overconfidence on our side, because when your experience of the other side is you hear all these stories of corruption and things like that, you think, well, how can they possibly surmount these stories of corruption? Well, they can surmount it because they don't hear about it. It simply does not show up in their news feed anywhere on social media or on CNN or MSNBC or any of the network news stations. So they're not getting the stuff that we take for granted and that we know. They're also, and also then we see the gigantic crowds gathering for Donald Trump, but they don't see that. They don't know about, but it wouldn't matter to them anyway, because they just think of those things as Nazi rallies, So, but what it does is it shows us, oh my God, look how many of us there are. But when you're you're in one place or another, and there's something like 10,000 people show up. 10,000 people is nothing when you think of that's a region. So he did a lot of appearances at airports there for a while. His first bunch of rallies were at airports. I think they might still be. I'm not sure. But you get like 10,000 people. Well, look, we know Trump voters. Trump voters are like people that follow the Grateful Dead. If he's within 400 or 500 miles, they'll drive there and stand in line all day. So those crowds are not really representative necessarily of the strength of his vote in that particular area. That's the strength of Trump voters, 200 miles in every direction. So we can very easily be lulled into a little bit of overconfidence here. And of course, then we've been running this narrative over here on the right that Joe Biden is suffering from dementia. I think Joe Biden is suffering from 77 years old. I know that I'm not quite as sharp as I was 10 years ago. And in 10 more years, you're going to hear me stopping to think a little more often. And he's also a lifelong stutterer. And when you see him do a lot of these things that have been sort of clipped out, people don't go through and watch that whole thing. I went back and I watched a whole bunch of long form things from the clips where he did these really crazy things like "You're not black." I mean, that's a half an hour interview, 25 minutes. And I watched the whole interview, and I watched his whole debate with Bernie Sanders. This was getting ready for the last debate, the one where Trump was interrupting a lot, and it was everyone talking over each other, and Chris Wallace was being a hard ass. It just wasn't a good showing for either candidate. But it was before that I went back and I listened to all of these long form things, including his debate with Bernie Sanders, and my takeaway was, this guy doesn't have dementia. We're getting overconfident thinking he does. What he is, he's an old man with an agenda that is not natural to him. It's not native to him to be talking Green New Deal and shutting down the energy industry in this country. That's not native to Joe Biden. It's the only chance he had. That was the deal the DNC made with him, is that he would have to be a crossover candidate to try to unite the divide within the Democratic Party, right? Because they had the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren crowd. And that was a strong, big vote, right? And then they had all this Buttigieg and all these other people who were roughly progressive, but not necessarily Green New Deal. And then they had Joe Biden, who was the only one standing up and not going for Medicare for all, including illegal aliens. He was going for, no, let's improve Obamacare. So they're going, okay, we can deal with him. He's the moderate guy. But then they put him together with Bernie Sanders after, they kneecapped Bernie out of the deal. And so Bernie Sanders got together and they wrote this thing where he took on a lot of Bernie Sanders ideas and put it into the current platform. that's on his website. So that's the current platform, is very Green New Deal influenced, very Bernie Sanders influenced, and that's not native to Joe Biden. So when he's in a debate situation or being questioned by people, he has to keep remembering, okay, what do I think really as Joe Biden? What's my historical stance on this? And not say that, and then do say all the things that are supposed to be his new, made hipper, made greener version of Joe Biden. So naturally, that's going to cause him to pause and think a little bit, and then he stutters. And you can tell when he's having a stuttering episode, because what he does, he closes his eyes and then he tries to say the word, and the way stuttering happens is a given word will just get stuck. And it's like a nervous tick kind of a thing. It's kind of like Tourette's. It's a response, a sort of a nervous system blockage. Doesn't have anything to do with your intellectual capabilities. And remember, like country singer Mel Tillis, never have a problem when he's singing, but when he's talking, you're going along because you're organizing as you go when you're talking, not when you're singing, because you already have memorized the thing. So as long as you memorize things, you won't stutter. And it's a lot easier with music because you're tying that to melody and to rhythm, and it drags you right through it. And so you can kind of get it into sort of muscle memory quite easily. This is why he's been taking these 5 and 6 day periods to prepare for these things. They're trying to give him canned answers. And so he gets to do the canned answer when he's given 2 minutes. So you saw him last night. He did pretty well. He only started to stutter a little bit. When you could tell when he's having a stuttering moment, he closes his eyes because he's got a word stuck. He closes his eyes and he tries to talk his mouth into saying the word. And then if he'll try it a couple times, and if he can't, and then he'll quit, and he'll use an alternate word, which may or may not quite fit what he's trying to say. He'll try to go for a synonym of the word that is blocking him. And if that doesn't work, he backs down and he starts the story again. And you can see that in all of these clips. That's what's happening. He's getting stuck. Like he can't say self-evident, and it comes out like self-elephant, elephant. And now he's screwed. And now his brain is criticizing him. Oh, you dumb stuttering idiot. And now everything gets totally boggled. That's separate from dementia. That's a different thing than dementia. But anyway, so I think it's pretty clear now that at least Democrats are not worried about his cognitive abilities, at least not in the near future. So the other thing I was thinking about is, now we know why they've been pushing so hard for early voting. Because they knew that this corruption thing was coming out. Jason found a thing. He'll talk to you about this at a later time. He found a thing where the New York Times had published this thing that we're hearing now with the claims of his what's this guy's, Bobulinski, I think his name, something like that. The former business partner of Hunter. Apparently that had been, kind of like a back pages story in the New York Times at one point in 2018. So this has been bubbling for a while. They know there's this vulnerability with him, with Hunter Biden, and it would, so, I mean, everybody now knows all about Ukraine. It's like, if you're going to try to tag Donald Trump to corruption, you would do it at Ukraine, where Biden has his greatest liability. It makes no sense. But anyway, that's what they did, because they're not terribly bright over there. So they've been in a panic about trying to get everybody to vote early. And I have a lot of people on my social media feed who are Democrats, and they've been saying for weeks, already voted. Oh, when's my ballot going to get here? I want to vote now. Imagine, hang on a second. Imagine that everything's based on people voting before they've heard the candidates debate. Imagine that's what your strategy is. Let's try to get people to vote before the debates. But that's what it's been. And now you can see why, because he's got real vulnerabilities here. This is really the first time that I have felt markedly optimistic that Trump is actually going to pull this out. Because, for what the reasons that I've detailed earlier about our overconfidence and And just, I know Democrats in a way that some of you may not, having been surrounded on all sides by Democrats for decades. There is a collectivism to these people. It's not just a philosophical thing, I mean, or an ideological thing. It's a tendency. There's a real tendency among people who end up on the left to think in terms of collective thought. And once they determine something, they will go with the collective. They're just wired that way. Whereas we tend to be more cranky and I'll do my own thing. That's more of a conservative thing. A conservative thing is more like, the individual is the main unit. With the Democrats, the collective is the main unit. That's what they see as the main unit. And I don't mean the family. Conservatives see the main collective unit is the family. And after that, it might be the church. But the church doesn't tell you how to vote. The church doesn't, tell you really anything. It's where you go, and that's your community, and that's your worship thing. But to the degree that conservatives are collective at all, it would be by way of their church, and that's about as big as collectivism gets. So unless you've spent a lot of time around Democrats, you really don't have a strong grasp of how they get the vote out. And oh my God, do they get the vote out? They really do. So this is no time to start resting on our laurels and thinking, oh man, look, Trump killed in the debate. It's obvious. Joe Biden is corrupt. They don't hear these stories. They really don't. So, and if they did, they wouldn't care. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to let you know I'm heading out to the desert very soon. I'm going to stick around for one thing. I'm doing a video this weekend, and it's going to be a resource video for you guys. It is a video of me talking to blue-collar Democrats. There still are a fair number of blue-collar Democrats, so I'm reaching out to them. I'm going to try to make the case. So I'm making this video, and I'm going to be speaking in the video directly to blue-collar Democrats. So when you guys see this, watch the video and see if you can use it as something that you can send to your brother-in-law or your sister who is a hardworking person but is a Democrat, because I'm trying to make the case that they're not being represented by the Democrats anymore. The Democrats don't care anymore, and that the sort of the new labor movement is Trump's pro-America agenda. He's the guy that wants to bring the jobs home. He's the guy that wants to staunch the flow of illegal immigration to allow more people who don't take the college path to be fully employed. And these cities are filling up with homeless people. These people would have factory jobs in a world that was filled with factory jobs. A lot of these people could do a simple factory job. I mean, they show up every day with their sign and walk back and forth on the median thing when you're trying to turn on to get on the freeway in LA. I don't know how it is where you live, but I mean, on every major corner where cars are lining up to turn to go on the freeway on-ramp or whatever, there's guys there with signs. And they show up every day, and it's the same guys. They have enough discipline to do some work, but there aren't these jobs. There aren't these unskilled jobs that factories produce. With every factory, there's the skilled jobs, and then there's the more unskilled jobs. That all you do all day is you turn a screw, and because things get out of adjustment, so you put it back, or you know what I mean. So push a button and stop something. Factory jobs we need to get manufacturing jobs back to the USA and fill up the Midwest with lots and lots of factory jobs so that these people don't begin to drift toward Los Angeles, where they know they can count on some handouts, and they'll allow them to sleep in the city parks. So anyway, I'm leaving town. I'm going out to the desert for a couple of weeks, as I do every fall. I'm going to meet up with my buddy Eugene. You may have seen him saving somebody from being caught in the desert sand in one of my videos that I made from out there. And I'll make a couple of videos from out there. And then I have to go home for Thanksgiving this year. I'm not waiting till Christmas. There's some concern in my family that my mother may be nearing the end of the journey, so to speak. And so my brother and his wife are heading up, and I'm going to be there. So all of the remaining kids, the 4 of us that remain of my mother's children, will be there. And whatever grandchildren are available, which is the only grandchildren we have is my brother's kids. So we're getting somewhat of a family get together for Thanksgiving this year, and we're going to have a proper Thanksgiving feast, which we haven't done in many years since the family kind of dispersed into Oregon and other places. But I'll make a couple of videos from there after I get done in the desert, and I'll be in the desert for 2 weeks, but I won't be leaving till after the election. So I'm here for another till after the election. But I'm kind of getting my van ready. I'm building an awning for it right now, and I'm just kind of getting ready to head out. It doesn't look like I'm going to find my motorhome before then, so I'll be searching for that over the winter months. So anyway, I'm rambling, and I hope that you guys are doing whatever you can to pull one voter across the line, to just pull one voter, somebody in your life, your kid, your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, somebody you know is going to vote for Biden, and they don't really know why they're going to vote for Biden. So if you can have one of these conversations where you just sit down and listen to them, just remind them that you're a good human being, that the ideation that they've been fed about how we're all a bunch of, sort of latent Nazis and white supremacists, kind of disabuse them of that confusing ideation that they've been getting fed by their side, and just have some conversations. People want an economy. People want an economy back. They don't, it was brilliant, I thought, that and strange that this moderator allowed Joe Biden to end with a question about whether he was going to destroy the petroleum industry in this country. And he said, yes. He said, yes, that's our intention, to completely cancel the petroleum industry. Does he know what that is? But certainly he must know how enormous that is, how many jobs that is, how important it is to the rest of the economy to have to have calorie dense energy like that. I mean, there's this energy density that petroleum has that we're not getting from windmills and solar panels. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So this is all sort of dreamboat stuff. And I think that's going to frighten a lot of people. And that's sort of like his last statement on for his last debate was, yes, it's not a theory of Donald Trump's. I actually do plan to cancel the petroleum industry in this country. So that's what's going on. I feel pretty good about our chances right now. A lot of people are predicting a runaway thing, but I check the polls every day on Real Clear Politics, and I'm not seeing it. And a lot of you will comment, you can't trust the polls, right? I agree. But how else do you measure it? How else do you measure it? So I just don't know. So I wish you guys all a great weekend. I've talked way too long, and we'll talk to you all very soon.